Well, hello to everybody joining us, and welcome to today's session on how to attract an audience with visual marketing. How to use visual content to inspire and engage your audience. And I am Rebecca Radice. I'm with Post Planner. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Global Brand Ambassador. And I am so excited today to be joined by Co-Schedule and Ashton Hoff. Ashton, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm going to give a little bit of your background. Now, first of all, am I able to congratulate you and say, wow, how exciting, you just got married?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw some of your wedding pictures. So pretty. So congratulations.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, so today we are joined, like I said, by Ashton, who is the graphic designer at Co-Schedule. She's passionate about designing for a purpose that extends beyond herself, as she sees design as a powerful means of communication, both for the local and global regions. Ashton has designed for a variety of groups, creating magazines, brand identities, and apparel to infographics, notebooks, and the vast amount of digital resources you will find on the Co-Schedule blog. And we are absolutely thrilled to have her here today, have her genius sharing with us so many fabulous tips about how you can really harness the power of visual marketing, visual content for your business. Now, before we dive in, just a couple of quick reminders. This is going to be a pretty fast-paced webinar. Ashton and I have a lot to share, but what we don't want you to worry about is having to scribble down notes, so just know that we are going to be sending along the replay, a copy of the slides, and a fantastic gift from Ashton, which I'll talk about in just a second, that I'm just super excited about this too, because you're going to be able to tap right into all that Ashton is doing on a daily basis. So you are in the right place if you want to learn today exactly how to use visual content in your business to triple your engagement. 6 fundamentals that we're going to share to help you create the perfect social media image, exactly where to find free images for your design, what tools to use, because you know we're all little toolaholics here, of what tools to use for designing eye-catching images. And then we're going to wrap it up with some growth hacking ideas that you can quickly implement no matter your business, no matter your industry, no matter your size. And as I said, you're going to want to stick around until the very end, because Ashton has a really cool surprise for us that she's put together for you. Along with this replay and along with those slides, you're going to get 128 plus photo pack that Ashton has personally put together. Have you personally shot all of these photos yourself?
I have, yes. I do photography as well, so it's a
Wow.
great design and photography together.
Oh, I am so excited. All right, so you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. So why use visual marketing? I think anybody that's here probably knows just the power of visual marketing at this point to really connect us with our audience in a way that maybe wasn't previously possible. And when you look at the statistics, over 63% of all social media content is comprised of images. Nearly 54% of internet users have uploaded a video or photo that they personally created, and we see this across Facebook, Instagram. Really, no matter where you're spending your time on social media, you are seeing content that includes images. And the beauty in those images is that no matter the social network, they are helping you increase your odds of getting found, of getting seen. So content with relevant images receive 94% more views than content without. And get a load of this one. This one always blows my mind. Tweets with images get 150% more retweets than those without images, and then 37% more engagement is experienced when posts on Facebook include photos, and finally, more than 60% of consumers are likely to make contact with a company whose images appear on local searches. And that one is just huge. No matter, again, the size of your business, no matter the industry you're in, it's evident. Visual marketing is really increasing that opportunity for you to get out there in front of your audience, but not just any audience, the right audience. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is how to create content, how to find content, how to share content that is going to engage your current audience and then also allow you to start building up just that audience, your fans, your followers, with the right people that you have been so eager to connect with. So Ashton, I want to kind of pick your brain here for just a few minutes as we dive into the fundamentals of a great image and what really makes a terrific image, because I'm sure we've all seen those blurry images or those images that have way too much text on them and just send your brain into overload, and I'm sure as a designer you just cringe, right?
Yes, I do.
You're giggling because it's true.
Yes.
So I thought we'd start here and talk about what all of those fundamental pieces are, the keys that go into great images. And the first is the correct image size. This is so incredibly important that no matter where you're posting, you're actually posting the correct size for that particular social network. And let's start with the big boy on the block, so Facebook. How are you guys over there at CoSchedule using cover photos? This is definitely a huge opportunity on Facebook, as cover photos are the first thing that most people are seeing. How are you using those to connect with your audience?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. It's one of the first things that they see when they come to our page, so we want to take advantage of that impression that we leave. And so we've done two different strategies most recently. And the first was we had a photograph that was created in-house of our product, kind of like the images you'll see in the photo pack, but just something really unique and personal to CoSchedule and our brand. And then we had a nice call to action on it. We had an arrow, because arrows always, always, always increase conversions. And that was a way that we got people to click on our sign-up button, which led them to our trial sign-up page. And so that was a really effective way to get people to convert. And then the second way we've used our cover images was just simply just show off our culture. We did a video thanking our audience about a month or so ago, and we just got really crazy. We had hats and just like all these outfits and just really had fun. And so that's our current cover image photo. And we just find that it makes our audience know exactly who we are, that we're fun, that we're here to help, and just bring a familiar face to our product.
I love that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your culture and how you are using just all of your different social networks to really share the culture behind CoSchedule. I think that's really a missed opportunity these days. So let's talk a little bit about Twitter and how CoSchedule is using Twitter and visual content.
Definitely. So we use Twitter for a lot of things, whether it's to help our audience with useful tips and tools, whether it's promotion for events like this that we get to talk to our audience, just all sorts of things. And so we use it for quotes. We'll take blog titles from our posts and just use that with a nice graphic. We like to include key points. So some of our graphics will take like tips away from the blog post, and we'll put that on a graphic. We use photos that relate to the post and just really draw in our audience. We've done bits and pieces of infographics, and then we even like to reshare other content, because we know that there's other great companies out there producing some really awesome content, and so we want to be a part of that community as well.
Yeah, great point. And these are all of the recommended image sizes for Twitter. You can see with the profile photo, header photo, in-stream photo. But the cool thing about Twitter is that they've changed recently. Well, not too terribly recent, but over the last year, year and a half, the image that you actually see in stream. And I think it's offered a lot of opportunity where you can try or test out some longer form content. We've been testing out some what we call mini infographics where it takes maybe a few bullet points from one of our blog posts and creates a little bit longer graphic that takes up some more real estate space within your stream and is extremely eye-catching and has that opportunity to really capture people's attention. So I think it's really a big opportunity over on Twitter if you haven't been sharing a lot of visual content to get back over there and start testing it out. And then likewise, obviously Instagram is all about visual marketing. I absolutely love Instagram myself, and I know both for co-schedule as well as post planner, we're using Instagram, but in a different way than we're using Facebook or Twitter or any other social network because of the fact that they're all very different audiences, very different cultures in who you're connecting with, but you also just have that one opportunity to post that great image and really capture their attention. So how are you using Instagram at CoSchedule?
Yeah, well, just like you said, we have a different angle with Instagram than we do Facebook or Twitter. And we like to use it almost solely for culture. We really want to use it to show like behind the scenes, fun events at the office, and just the people behind the product, because that's just so big, and Instagram's just a great way to show that off.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, and it's for us, we have found there's a definite balance in the type of content that you're sharing as well. And for us, it's been a mix of quotes that are branded. So keeping that on brand, with our colors, with our fonts, but also sharing other really cool stuff, other people's quotes that, we're able to use tools that we'll talk about here today, like Canva, to drop those into. But for us, like I said, and I think it's probably pretty common across the board, what you share on Facebook or Twitter, not necessarily, and probably more than likely, not what you're going to share on Instagram as well. But the good news is it's not a tool you have to be, or a social network you have to be afraid of. You just have to dive in and start testing out what type of visual content is resonating with your audience over there. And we just continue to do that, and what we do continues to evolve, and I think that's the fun in it too. You're not going to know what's going to resonate with your audience right out of the gate, but what you will be able to tell pretty quickly is what they're looking for. And that definitely is the fun in every single social network. It's always evolving, it's always changing, and you always have the chance to do something a little bit different tomorrow or the next day. So same situation with LinkedIn, different audience, more professional audience, so probably looking for a little bit different content, wouldn't you say, Ashton?
Oh, definitely.
What type of content is CoSchedule sharing within all of these recommended image sizes? So you've got the banner image. You have a lot more opportunity with visual content on LinkedIn than you ever did before, where, previously, and I've talked about this was actually my first social network. I signed up, gosh, I think 2005, and I have watched the evolution of LinkedIn, just change dramatically. Very similar to Twitter, where you were kind of communicating like you would via text. You weren't sharing links or you weren't sharing images at the very beginning, and it was very similar with LinkedIn where it was just really, your static resume or bio, and now it's got this a whole community feel with beautiful visuals with your banner image and your logo, your profile picture, background image. You have your groups that you can take part in, your business pages, so many different opportunities to really share what your brand is all about. But again, your content needs to be a little bit different. And so what have you tested over at CoSchedule?
Yeah, definitely. We use LinkedIn for more of our professional audience, and so you'll see a lot of our blog content or new features or demos of our products, things like that. That's just a little bit deeper than our Twitter or Facebook content, and we found that to be really successful.
Yeah, and again, I think it just goes back to testing what's working and what's not. We have heavily tested on LinkedIn. Obviously, with it being more of that professional focus, you really have to understand who your audience is, who you're looking to connect with, and then what type of content are they sharing? What type of content are they reading on a consistent basis? And then use that information, doing your homework, taking a look at your competition. What are they sharing? What's working really well with their audience? Because more than likely what they're sharing is very similar to what you're sharing, what your audience is looking for. And so doing your research, really understanding not only the recommended image sizes, but what type of images you should be sharing over there. Great place to start before you just dive in. Pinterest, another one of just, an awesome opportunity for you to share your content in a way that is a little bit different than any other type of social network. So for Pinterest, we started on Pinterest, gosh, at Post Planner, I want to say about a year and a half ago now, and it is now our number 3 traffic referral source to our website and blog outside of organic traffic. It has become just a huge resource for us. And all of that comes from the way that we are not only pinning our own content, but pinning other people's content, and really finding that perfect mix of content and using the larger sizes. So we've got, all of the different sizes here, but keep in mind that expanded pin size, if you've got an infographic or something rather large, it is gorgeous when it's expanded on Pinterest. So don't be afraid to pin those larger images and really allow those to go viral, because they can definitely do that on Pinterest. We've seen that happen quite a few times, and it's such a incredibly powerful search engine, so terrific way for people to find you as well. And then Google Plus, another one very similar to Pinterest. We are using that to use those expanded images, those longer images, taking up more of that real estate like I talked about, using that cover image to really use that banner for a high-level awareness around who your company is, who your brand is. But again, ensure that all of your sizes are just exactly correct for each one of these social networks. And then number 2, the fundamentals of a great image are consistency. And this is, again, another area where you probably cringe, Ashton, but kind of walk us through, what's so important about consistency?
For sure. I think consistency is my main go-to for visuals, because if it's not consistent, that brand isn't developed and that recognition isn't developed. And so it's super important, maybe one of the most important things with your visual marketing and your brand is that you have to be consistent, because that allows you to be recognizable. And so there are a few different things that you can do in order to make sure that your graphics and your visuals are consistent. And the first is that you have to use the same filters across all of your images. There's so many apps out there right now that have so many different filters, so there's endless options, but it's really key to choose 1, maybe 2 filters that are similar to each other so that you can have that same mood and that same tone across all your images. So when they go to, let's say, Instagram or Pinterest where they see multiple images at once, they immediately establish a connection between the visuals because you have the same mood to all of your images. The second thing you can do to be really consistent is to make sure that your font and your type also are similar to each other. I think they recommend that maybe 3 fonts is the max that you should use for images, just so that when people are reading your content, it's easy and it's simple and it's recognizable right from the get-go. And then along with that, you want to be consistent so that you can maintain it. It's nice to kind of create those guidelines from the get-go so that when you're posting these filters and these fonts and you're creating your images, you almost have an outline or a guideline for how to maintain your brand style. And then in addition to your brand, of course, there's colors. And with that, there's also endless opportunities. But it's really important to choose a color that matches the style of your product or what you're trying to selling. And then once you choose those colors, to stick to it. I'd recommend maybe 3 to 5 colors and just stick to those colors, rock them, make them look good, and slowly you'll get to see your brand develop through there. And then lastly, it's always essential to make sure that your watermark or your logo, whatever it might be, that your name is on your graphics, because when people don't know you, that's initially how they will find out who created that or where is this content coming from. So we have to have our name or a hashtag or a slogan on the images or with images to really make that connection stand out and to just get consistent across the board. And it's really important to be recognizable and to grab attention because they say that it only takes 0.2 of a second for a user to create a first impression. And I don't know about you, but for me that is crazy fast. And so that's a lot of pressure on our visuals to make sure that we have a really good first impression with these people, not just, you know, face to face, but on screens. And so we're going to move on and talk about how we can really make our visuals stand out right from the beginning. So there are a few ways that we can have our images stand out. And the first one that I can't stress enough is that we can't use corporate style stock photography. I feel like over the past few years we are so good at initially recognizing whether something seems fake or unrealistic or it seems too perfect, because right now we really want authenticity, we want it to be real, we want it to be relevant, and so please do yourself a favor and ignore those corporate style stock photography and get creative. You know, get a camera, use your phone, there's plenty of tools out there to do that. Second, it might seem really simple, but just ask yourself, is this relevant to my topic or my audience? Because we don't want to post content that we just like or we think it's cool, but we want to really make sure that it relates to our audience because that's the end goal. And if it doesn't connect with our audience, then it's really not going to stand out. It's just going to blend in with everything else. And along with that, it's essential to have a focal point in all of your images. So as you can see on the right side of the screen, the first thing that you gravitate towards is the book that says brand gap because it's the largest thing on the page. A focal point also might be a color that stands out or some kind of weird shape, but it's the first thing that your eye sees, and so you really want to make sure that you're intentional about what your focal point is. Next, you really want to make sure that your images are clear and easy to view. This can be with your typography, it can be with how cluttered the items in your photo are. You just want to make sure that you have white space, that your text is legible, so that when you have those 0.2 of a second, they're really drawn in right away and know exactly what you're trying to get across. And then lastly, don't do the same thing as everyone else. You're supposed to be unique, you're supposed to be different, and it's okay if you start, you know, looking at your competitors and doing the same thing as them right away, or even doing what CoSchedule does. I don't care. You have to be different. You know, start where you can, but then once you feel comfortable, you know, just keep moving forward and make your content unique, because at the end of the day, that's really what will make your images stand out, because there's nobody else that thinks and creates like you, and that's part of the freedom that comes with creating visuals. All right, so next we're going to talk about relevancy, because if it's not relevant, it doesn't really matter if it's consistent, because we want to make sure that we have that connection with our audience. And so in order to connect with our audience, there's 2 questions that you really want to ask yourself. You want to ask yourself, are your images relevant to your brand or to your niche? That can be to your product or what you're selling, or that can be to your audience. And if they aren't related to one of those things, you probably shouldn't share it, because there's endless amounts of content over there, and we don't want to just add to it. Secondly, you want to ask yourself, which product or service is the product or service that you're offering, is it obvious? Because again, we have 0.2 of a second to make that impression, and if it's not immediately clear what you're trying to convey, then that connection is broken and they might never come back. So again, don't confuse your audience with an inconsistent message. Make sure you know who your audience is, and make sure you know what your message is so that you can connect those dots with your visuals.
So the fundamentals, ooh, sorry about that. Getting some serious feedback. Ooh, all right, I think that's better. Sorry about that. So the fundamentals of a great image, number 4 is their ability to stand out on their own. And I think this is so important just based off of everything that Ashton was sharing, that you are creating those visuals that are unique, that create that differentiation as people are seeing you across social media. And there's a ton of different ways that you can use visual content. But one of my favorite is text-based images, and they can be used in a number of different ways. So everything from sharing a quote, maybe say something longer than the word count would allow for, which definitely you can do on Twitter. Quote a fascinating fact to entice some clicks over to your latest blog post. So instead of just tweeting out that headline, share a quote, share a tip, share a thought from that blog post, or create a clickable headline image, or maybe stress the benefits of your content and or your offer. And that could come in the form of a third-party testimonial. So getting the approval of maybe a past client that you can use their testimonial, and putting that on a beautiful visual that is aligned with your business. All great ways to use some text-based images in maybe a little bit different way than you're using right now. And then number 5, use visuals and tell your story. It's interesting because there's been so much conversation around storytelling and brands using storytelling to connect your audience. And to me, images have always been tied to your core story. In fact, the CMO Council found that 65% of marketing executives believe visual assets, so photos, video, illustrations, infographics, are core to how their brand story is communicated. And I really challenge everybody here today, everybody listening to the replay, to think about how your visuals can persuade, how they can motivate, how they can mesmerize and enthrall your audience, and how they can really encourage them to take action as well, because they tell a unique story. They really connect your viewers, your audience with your message in a very compelling, in an impactful way. It doesn't matter how you're using them. It could be humorous, you could be controversial, you could be tugging at those emotional heartstrings, whatever the case is. Telling your story through images can create massive results. And as 2 companies that use visual marketing in absolutely everything that we do, I can tell you that the proof is in the pudding, as they say. We just got done going through a case study with Simply Measured, where they analyzed our Facebook growth, and almost 90, I'm trying to remember, I want to say 97.2% of what we share contains an image, and it was astounding to see that we had grown 193% over a 12-month period, and how much images had played into that growth. So you really can see massive results when you're using images properly within your business. And then tapping into that emotion so they can evoke emotion, really drive that awareness, that interaction. And you can do that by tapping into the three reasons consumers buy. So first of all, why do people buy? Well, think about yourself. Maybe it's to satisfy a basic necessity. So for food, for clothing, for shelter. To solve a problem would be number two. So think about what your audience's concerns are. What's their challenges or their problems that you can solve? And then maybe thirdly, they're coming to you, they're looking for your product or service because they want to better themselves. They want a better body, maybe a better life, a better bank account, because who doesn't want that? But all of those things are an opportunity for you to think about, why are the people that come to you buying your product or service? And then how can you utilize visual content to really get into their heads? And that's where the psychology behind social sharing comes in. And this is an area that I have talked a lot about, terribly fascinated about. And Ashton, you know so much about color theory and the reasons why we actually use the colors that we do, why brands use the colors that they do, and why there's so much sharing behind those brand colors. And I thought you might just kind of walk us through some of those top colors, what they stand for, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the brands and why they're using those colors as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm absolutely fascinated by it too, and I could probably spend all day, so I'm going to try to briefly cover all of the colors, but we'll also talk about why certain brands have chosen these colors too in a little bit, which is exciting, but I'll just go through these right away. The color black is usually used for, authority or power. It's really classy, or that premier brand that you'll see. With yellow, it's usually fun and joyous and optimistic. With yellow, you want to be very careful not to make it look sour, I'll call it, just because it can make people feel sick, and so that's just a caution with yellow. Orange is also very cheerful and inviting. It's always very optimistic, and kind of a nice balance between that passion of red and the fun, joyous of yellow. And with red, red is also a very, very bold color because it can be very emotionally intense, kind of on both realms of the spectrum. So it can be very passionate, it can be loving, but it also is a signal for danger and for strange things. And so you just want to be careful when you're using red. And then my favorite are blue and green. Blue is the color of tranquility and loyalty and trust. And so it's a really dependable color, and that's why you see it on social networks, at least what I believe, is because they're trying to make that trust connection with you. And then with green, it's the color of the world, and so it's natural, it's refreshing. It's used to show money a lot, or income and that kind of a thing, but in general, it's a very natural, calming color.
So let's just go ahead and jump right into getting started and really creating your own visual style. And it's very, very simple to start to define your style. I know it can feel overwhelming, a little stressful, but it doesn't have to be. And it's just, as Ashton just shared, so important that you nail down what that color is. Psychologists suggest that color impression accounts for 60% of the acceptance or rejection of your product or service, which is huge. And you really want to choose that color that best represents your company. It sets you apart and it imparts those feelings that you want people to take away from your business or brand, and then helps them take that action that you want them to take. And your visual style has so much to do with your font, too. And I know this is another area, Ashton, you are very passionate about. So I'll let you talk a little bit about your font.
Definitely. So as we mentioned before, your font and your typeface is something that you definitely want to make sure is consistent across your visuals. And we'll see on the next slide that they recommend the maximum of 3. And so within those 3, you can kind of create a variety to really used for the correct application. So I'm just going to briefly go through the 4 different types of typography or fonts that you'll find out there. And the first they call a serif, and that's the little bracket or the little line that you'll see attached to the main stroke of a letter. This is your Times New Roman, your Baskerville, and they like to use it in books because it's easier to be read in that sort of context. And so serifs are good if you want something to be quickly read and quickly legible. The next is a sans serif, so it just means without a serif. So these are your Helvetica and your Arial. They're really simple, clean, modern letter forms. And these are great for your headlines or your titles. You can see in the title of our presentation that is also a sans serif. And it's just a great way to get people's attention really fast and clean. The next one is a script, and this is, your hand lettering or anything that's kind of italic in nature. And there's so many different kinds of scripts out there. It's kind of really hard to nail it down for a certain type, but I'm sure you guys know what I mean. And then lastly, there's a display typeface, and these are the ones that go beyond the script nature, and then they're just really out there, and they're really decorative in style. And the only thing I will say about this is really avoid making these for your titles, because that is a great way for your audience not to be able to read your headlines or your content and then leave. So make sure that you use these typefaces really sparingly, maybe for a really bold word or really bold graphic or things like that. But in general, I love to have a sans serif as my title, a serif for a nice, quickly read description, and then scripts for maybe captions or things that are smaller in nature.
So HubSpot found that using 3 font styles makes it easier to read content. When choosing your font, ask yourself just a couple of questions. So is my company fun? Is it silly? Is it entertaining? Is it serious, inquisitive, playful, maybe straightforward? And then is my content all of those as well? Because you want your font to be aligned with your company voice, your brand style. I'm certain we've all seen those where it just feels weird that why would they use that font when maybe it just doesn't feel like it's a great representation of everything that who they are. But the good news is you can really test out those fonts, figure out what works best for your company, what feels right to your company as well. And so defining your visual style through typography, your headings and titles should also be really easy to read and understand. Like Ashton said, typography is the detail and the presentation of a story. It represents the voice of an atmosphere or historical setting of some kind. It can do a lot of things. So don't neglect that typography and maybe push it aside and think it's not that important, because it is incredibly important that you're creating that consistent look and feel. And then using a consistent theme in your images as well that complements your brand and really allows people to connect to your content, to your brand style, no matter where they see you. And I don't know how many people here are already connected with CoSchedule, but your brand, Ashton, I would know it anywhere. It's so defined and clearly defined in your color palette, in your themes, just in your styling, everything about it. And I know you've played a huge role in that. So kudos to you in creating that very distinct look and feel that no matter where we look for you, we know it's you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to learn from following you guys anywhere you are across social media. And then you want to make consistency easy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools, but 2 of our absolute favorite tools are Canva and Relay, and both of them allow you to hop in, create those templates, batch those out so you can do quite a few at the same exact time, and then ensure that you're not just throwing content out there randomly that doesn't have anything to do with your brand and looks nothing like the last image that you created. So it's nice to have that hub where you can go to and start to create these templates so you don't have to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again. So brands using visual marketing effectively, Ashton, let's talk a little bit about who are those great examples out there of brands that are doing visual content right. And maybe I'm just a Starbucks fan or a coffeeaholic, but they also are another brand that no matter where I look, if it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, they really teach us a valuable lesson in how they're using visual content, and that is sometimes less is more. They're very simplistic almost in how they use visual content, but they're also very, very consistent.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would describe their brand as clean. It's very simple and focused, but it's also fun. They don't let themselves get constricted to this serious tone. And I just love that they use the color green because it's just such a natural, stress relieving, health promoting aesthetic to it. And I think that's exactly what Starbucks is going for. They want to be that presence within the coffee industry. And they really want to have a great atmosphere at any coffee shop that you go to.
So how about Nike? What are your takeaways as far as Nike's visual content and what they're sharing?
Yeah, I think my favorite part about Nike is that they have this beautiful history to their name. Nike is the goddess of victory, and the symbol just is so clean and so simple, and it just encompasses that victory. It's so, I don't know, it's just perfectly intentional. You're moving forward, and I think the match with black is such a perfect combination because it really encompasses balance, class, and focus, and that's exactly what these athletes want, and it's what all of us who aren't athletes strive for. So they reach both audiences at once, and I think they do it beautifully.
And then Oreo, I think we all know Oreo and their visual content. They use so many different types of media within their visual content, everything from GIFs to video, short videos. What's your favorite thing about Oreo and their visual content?
I personally love Oreo. I'm a double stuff fan, so I'm just gonna give a shout out to that. But I just love how bold and bright their colors are because they almost reach out to your inner child, whether you're 5 and you love Oreos or you're 50 and you eat Oreos. They really have that full spectrum, especially with the color blue. And the type of blue that you use, it's more of a fun blue than a tranquil blue, and so I think it really energizes. I know I've heard stats that if you paint your workout space blue, you're more motivated and you work harder. You just get more energized, and so I think they really tap into that at Oreo, and I find it really fun and inspiring.
Yeah, I would agree. Very fun brand. All right, so let's dive into some different types of visuals and see if maybe you can share some insight with us on quotes. Obviously, we see these all over social media, and it's very simple to put these together. Find a quote you like, pair it with a color or a simple background, a dynamic duo, to getting just a quick quote out there across social media. That's probably one of my favorites. Do you use quotes quite a bit at CoSchedule, or would you say that's something that you haven't used as often?
Yeah, we definitely use quotes, whether it's quoting ourselves from blog posts, or sometimes in our blog posts we quote, famous influencers in our industry. And we love having quotes because they're just such a shareable piece of content, because whether you've read our content, whether it's a blog post or an ebook or whatever it might be, a quote is such an easy and fast way to relate to your audience, and it's so shareable because they don't need that content or that context that's usually necessary. So I love sharing quotes.
Yeah, and I think another one that has definitely taken off over the last several years are infographics. So, data, charts, graphs. I think we're all very visual learners for the most part, which is our attraction to visual content. And infographics just break it down, don't they, in such an easy to consume format. And I know you at CoSchedule, you create quite a few. I love the ones, maybe they're just mini infographics, but you do this quite a bit in your blog posts.
Yes, definitely. We always like to include some type of resource or helpful content at the end that our users can download. And so we always make, templates or infographics. And I personally, as a designer, love infographics because I'm such a visual learner. And it takes these complex concepts that we might talk about in our blog post, but makes it understandable in a really simple and fun way with an infographic. And then in return, we get to post it on like Pinterest because they allow that longer form content. And it's just a great way for us and our readers to connect and help each other.
So conversation starters, those would be things like questions or thoughts or a call to action. Another missed opportunity where you could ask a question and put it right on your graphic. I think people often forget that it doesn't just have to be a quote. It could be a great question, that has something to do with the time of the year. Maybe it's a holiday, maybe it's summertime. And instead of always using an image, put your question right there on your visual, just super simple, again, just like quotes, or create videos. Video, incredibly hot, whether you are using video on, say, YouTube or Vine or Facebook Live, on just so many different platforms where you can create compelling video content. It is incredible to see how much we're consuming. 100 million internet users watch online video every single day, and 90% of online shoppers say they find video helpful in making shopping and buying decisions. So if you're not using video, it's a great time to get started. I know it can feel a little overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. It can be so simple that you can just write effective little scripts to make them informative, to make them a healthy blend of information, entertainment, appeal, and mix these in with all of the other visual content that you're using. It's a great way for your audience to hear you, to start to see you, and better understand who you are and what your company is all about. And video definitely takes that kind of to the next level, than a little bit further than what we have with our other visual content. And then choosing your platform, as I said, lots of different places that you can create video content, that you can share video content. So no matter where you end up spending your time or finding your audience, and any single one of these, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, again, all very different in the type of format, and it's going to depend on where your audience is spending their time, how comfortable you are with that particular format, but just do it. Just dive in, get started, and have fun with it. And then behind the scenes is another one. Most fans and customers, they love to see, what you've got going on. And I know, Ashton, you use this as far as your culture is concerned to share behind the scenes photos of the CoSchedule staff, of you out doing some kind of fun things, unique things together, maybe in the office. Really a different way of connecting with everybody at CoSchedule.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things because we do so many quirky things. Like if anyone has ever met anyone from CoSchedule, we're all a little bit geeky and we're all a little weird in our own ways. And so it's just so fun to be able to express that to our audience and have fun with it.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, back to another missed opportunity of not letting your audience in and seeing a little bit more what goes on within your business. So let's jump in real quick to some tools to really start to use these tools to your benefit. And we talked about creating your own images, and as much as it would be a perfect world if you could create that but beautifully designed image. We know that everybody doesn't have a team. You don't have the bandwidth. There are free image sites out there that have some high resolution, great photography that not necessarily as stock as you might find on some other sites. Pexels, Pixabay, Unsplash, StockSnap, all some of my favorites that I've used in the past. And so if you are a little limited as far as your budget, if you're limited on the time and availability you have to create your own image, some of these free sites could be a great place for you to get started. And then there's all the tools. So all the tools and gadgets. Canva is one that we have integrated right into Post Planner. So as I was talking about using questions or quotes, we have our idea generator that literally has tens of thousands of ideas for you that are questions that could be brand related, that could be holiday related, that you could take and you could tweak and play around with, make them yours, and drop them right into a pre-designed template within Canva that you, again, could create that branded theme design that you could use over and over again, and then just drop right into Post Planner for a very simple, very quick, and effective way to get your visual content out there. Relay, another one of my absolute favorite ways to create those quick images. They have all of these pre-designed templates, as you can see over here, just a few of them, but they actually have them laid out for you, very similar to Canva, but I think there's less work involved, even if that's possible. But just a nice way, to use those quotes, create those covers for Facebook or Twitter, no matter what you're looking for, in just a matter of moments. Over is another one of my favorite apps. It's for Android and iPhone. Great app that I think it's very user-friendly, doesn't take a lot of time to figure this app out, but you can add, it's got a lot of flexibility, so add your text, choose your background, lots of options there. Now, Pictochart is one if you're looking to create infographics, maybe those mini infographics that we talked about. This has over 100 customizable themes, very, very, very simple to use, very simple to get an infographic out. Another simple tool is Quotes Cover. I've used this for years. It doesn't give you the flexibility that Relay That or Canva give you, but if you just need to, create something that's got your brand colors, that is, you're able to choose your font, this is a great way to go. And then finally, PicMonkey, which certainly has been around for quite some time, but still one of my all-time favorites in the simplicity of it, but also in the flexibility and how much you can do to really customize your image and make it true to your brand. So we're I cannot believe, almost coming up on an hour here together, Ashton. Oh my gosh! But before I let you go, I definitely want us to talk about some growth hacking ideas. And growth hacking is a term that's become quite popular over the last several years. And simply put, it's just a great way to maximize visual marketing and visual content within your business to get your content out there in front of a whole lot more people as quickly as possible. So we talked about knowing the social network and knowing the image size, but you also need to tackle each one visually. So we thought we'd just give you some examples on this of what we have found. So at Post Planner, we have found that on Instagram, when you use that visual content if you really want to increase your traction, if you really want to get seen or get found by a whole lot more people. Well, more tags equals more likes and more comments, because you're going to allow people to be able to find your visual content as long as you're using relevant tags. So make sure that you're tagging your content appropriately with those tags that are very similar to what you're sharing and are something that your audience is going to be searching for. We have also found, and we have tested this pretty heavily, that no filter is the best filter for content. It does dramatically better as far as the interaction and engagement. And then don't forget a call to action. And I think this is a big confusing area with visual content on Instagram, that you aren't supposed to really add any text to it, or you don't have a whole lot of space. And just like other social networks, you do have the opportunity to use that call to action, because they absolutely work. In fact, we started testing out our calls to action on our blog posts on Instagram, and it increased our interaction and our engagement by over 60% just on those blog posts that we were sharing. So we know they really, really do work. Desaturated photos get more likes, and then photos with faces get more likes, which is really interesting, and I have found this to be very, very true. People want to see your face. So even if you are a business, if you are a personal brand, people want to know who you are. They want to connect with you on a more personal level. And some tips to Snapchat to increase that engagement on Snapchat. There's a lot of different ways. Location is a huge one. Another big one on Snapchat is be real, be fun, and be you. As we talked about before, everybody is connecting with you for a different reason on a different social network, and Snapchat, we have found, is all about getting to know more about the real you, and not as business focused or self-promotionally focused all the time. And then on Pinterest, one of my favorites, be pinnable. Make sure that you're creating pinnable graphics for all of your personal content. So if you're creating, if you're writing blog posts, make sure that you've got those pinnable graphics and sizing them correctly, like we talked about previously, making your images visually appealing, and then adding a pinnable image, like I said, to not just your blog content, but any content that you're creating out there. So very important that you're not only doing all of those things, but stepping outside of yourself and designing an experience around your content, and not just selling a product or service. So never just posting visual content. And Ashton, I know you're extremely passionate about this. Never posting visual content just for the sake of it, and just pushing out promotional content after promotional content. You've got to stop making it all about you and really designing that experience around your business and your brand. So the question is, with everything that we've talked about here today, how can you implement these ideas? How can you take the ideas from different brands? How can you take all the information that Ashton shared about creating a style guide and really defining that visual style? Well, first of all, you got to put your plan in place, and we're going to give you 3 simple steps to help you get started. And then you have to use the tools the pros use. You've got to take into account how to batch your visual content, how to automate what you can, and that is what CoSchedule and Post Planner are all about, is helping you do exactly that. And the planning, definitely, that is a forte of where CoSchedule comes in. And so with that, let's just kind of talk through, Ashton, real quick, this 3-step visual content plan and how to determine your goals. You want to take that away?
Sure, definitely. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, where do you want to be? Do you want to be that person who's fun and exciting, or do you want to be that person who's a little bit more serious, but you're very classy. You just kind of have to find your angle and ask yourself what kind of brand and what kind of product you want to be. And then along with that, depending on your industry, your success might look differently. And so you have to ask yourself, what does that look like for you? What does success mean? Does that mean I get this amount of followers? Does that mean that this image has to get this much page views on my website or click-throughs? You really have to define that metric so you can track if it was successful or not. And then lastly, you want to know what you want each design to help you achieve. So there should always be a purpose or an intention behind your graphics. And so maybe you test this graphic because you want this to give me X amount of page views, or you want this photo to really show off the culture of our product. Those are all goals that you can choose with your visuals, and you want to make sure that you choose that metric so that you can track your success, and then you know whether you've achieved that with your design or if you didn't.
So identifying the tools, it's really all about figuring out which tools are right for you. Not every single tool I talked about is going to be your favorite tool, your most comfortable tool. So it's figuring out your workflow, your rhythm when it comes to your visual content, to your design, to that creation process that you're going to go through. And it's thinking about how will those tools help you create a brand connection? How will they allow you to be consistent, not just in everything that Ashton talked about as far as consistency within your look and feel, but also consistency in your timing and how often you're getting them out there in front of your audience. So the tools are incredibly important because rather than jumping all over from one tool to the next, you know which ones you want to use, whether you're on desktop, on your mobile, they're right there and you can just jump in and throw something together, or you can create in advance, which is even better. And then finally, it's defining, where your visuals are going to be shared. Are they going to be shared on social media? Absolutely. Maybe on your blog, website, print. So it's knowing exactly where you're going to share all of that content, and then how you're going to consistently create and share that visual content, and what that needs to be defined is, so how often, what does that calendar look like for you? And I'm going to let Ashton speak to that a little bit, because that's obviously something CoSchedule has figured out backwards, forwards, all the way around.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I think I cut out for a second.
Yeah. I was talking about how to create consistency through a calendar and figuring out how often you're going to post, how often you're going to share that visual content.
Definitely. So with a calendar, it's one of the most helpful tools with your visual marketing, because you can really see, when you're going to post things, how often you're going to post it, which social medias you're going to post to, because typically you have a different strategy for each and every different social network. And so with a calendar, you can really plan out, and then with CoSchedule, you can really automate where and how you post your visuals.
Yeah, and that calendar is so incredibly important when it comes to consistency, and I have a feeling that that is probably one reason why people showed up here today, is that you're frustrated because you're out there, you're trying to create that visual content, you're trying to create a consistent visual strategy. Maybe it's that you're trying to create visual content, but you don't have a big budget, you don't have that bandwidth like we talked about, or maybe it's just that you need an easy way to share that visual content, and you don't know where to begin or how to begin, and you don't know how to implement all of this across so many different social networks. And we get that on a daily basis. Is, okay, that's great, I know that I need to be sharing visual content, but where do I do it, and how do I do it, and where do I start? And I know it can be a bit overwhelming, and that's where the decision really comes in. And you always have a choice. That's a beauty in life, right? You have a choice. You can go fast with anything, you can go slow with anything. And the fastest way, I think, to get there is to use those tools that pros use, or otherwise, you can DIY it and you can do it a little bit slower, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It always comes down to what I say, too, which is, do you have more time or money, fast or slow? And so sometimes moving a little bit faster is the way to get you to exactly where you want to be without the pain and the frustration and the headaches of trying to learn all of these new tools and feeling totally overwhelmed by which app and how do I choose that font, and really partnering with tools that help you pull all of that together. And that is exactly why we partnered with CoSchedule here today. And Ashton, my apologies, we're running just a few minutes late, but wanted to make sure that we spent ample time talking about what an amazing tool CoSchedule is to really help you get to where you want to be a whole lot quicker within your visual content, within your consistency, within your sharing, and allowing people to tap into all that you have available over there at CoSchedule. So I'd love for you to just share with us real quick, for everybody that isn't completely clear on what CoSchedule does, what it is that you're there to help them out with.
Yeah, so I don't know where I would be as a graphic designer without CoSchedule, because we post so much content to all different networks and just have so many different strategies. And so, like we said before, the calendar itself keeps me so organized, and it's the best thing ever. But there are really three big features that we have specific to visual marketing that I just wanted to touch on because they're just so useful. And the first is our social templates feature. Usually you post one time to Facebook at a certain time, and then you post to Twitter, at a certain time, and then you go to Google Plus or wherever it might be, and you post there, and you kind of create this schedule for yourself of, this content is released, and I'm going to post here, 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 here at these times. And you have to do that at each and every different social network. But with social templates, you can create a template with all of the social networks in it, with all of the times, and you just save it, because then you can apply that template any and every time that you want to do that same thing. And the second feature that I really love, especially for what I do, is there's this best time feature. So it takes the guesswork out of choosing what time you should post to each network. Our developers here have done all of the math for you. They've researched it so much, and they found the best time to post on each of your social networks for you, custom to those networks. And so it's fabulous. So that also helps you save time because you don't have to think about that. And then lastly, what I absolutely love is our new feature, image helpers. And what that is you can see it kind of in the graphic to the right there, but you can choose a name for your graphic, and then anytime that name is mentioned when you're typing your social message, that graphic will automatically populate. And so for us, instead of me having to upload an image 10 times because we want to use it in 10 messages, I only have to upload it once, and then the person who writes the message just has to use that little tag. And so image helpers save us so much time, and they're so useful.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing I have always appreciated about CoSchedule is it brings that peace of mind to knowing that everything's right there in front of you. You know that you've got your calendar. You know that you've got all of your important content laid out there right in front of you, and it pairs so beautifully with Post Planner. And I know several people had asked, what's the difference between Post Planner and CoSchedule? And Post Planner was built for engagement. So we are out there, we are combing all of the content, all of that visual content that's out there across the web, and we are helping you find that. You could pull in any of your own content, and then we're scoring that with our algorithm, and we are making it super easy for you to then look at that scoring system. It's our star rating system, and identify what is the content that has already done extremely well across the web, what's already already been shared, what's gotten extremely high engagement. So it gives you the ability to find scientifically proven visual content or to pull in your own content and get that scored so you can see, exactly how well it's performed, or your competitions, any of that content, and then being able to use CoSchedule, to get that into an actual plan. So lots of different ways that you can use Post Planner and CoSchedule together, but we wanted to offer to everybody here today a way to decide for yourself. Figure out how you can best use CoSchedule and Post Planner in tandem for an incredibly powerful combination of tools. And we are offering 40% off on our most popular plan. It's our Guru plan that in a recent article we were found to increase engagement by up to 650% because of your ability to find that scientifically proven content. So as of today, you're able to use this code, and we're going to send that off to you as well in that follow-up email. So if you're not able to scribble it down right this second, we just want to make sure that you don't miss out, because time runs out on Sunday at midnight for you to take advantage of this special offer here today. You just have to use the code PPVisual. And I know that CoSchedule has something similar. And then we also have that awesome free giveaway from you, Ashton, right here at the end.
Yeah, so we're giving away a free 30-day trial of CoSchedule because we really, truly believe that it will help you save time and be more organized, especially with your visual marketing. And so please take advantage of that. Automate all these things that we've been talking about. Don't do it the slow way, do it the fast way. Save yourself time for the more important things. We really want to give writers and creators the time back to do what they love and then automate the rest. And so we just love CoSchedule for that, and it really makes you a rock star marketer without having to have a ton of background in that area. And so it's just really great, and we'd love to have you.
I think that says it all. I love it. So arriving in your inbox, you are going to get the replay, including slides and the photo pack, that 128 plus photo pack from Ashton, who, oh my gosh, you're so talented. She's a photographer. She took all of these, and they're all just gorgeous images that you're going to get to use in all of your visual content. So be on the lookout for that. We would love to see you both over in Post Planner and CoSchedule. And please go and connect with CoSchedule on social media. Where are the best places to connect with you, Ashton?
Me personally or CoSchedule?
Both.
Well, we're both on Twitter. It's at CoSchedule or at CoSchedule blog on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn, Google+, Pinterest. If you want to see all of our awesome infographics, you can find them on Pinterest. And then if you'd like to connect with me personally, I'm at Ashton Hoff on Twitter.
Awesome. All right. And you can connect with us at Post Planner pretty much across the board. And I'm at Rebecca Radice. Thank you to everybody that was here live, that's listening to the replay. We so appreciate you all joining us here today and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great day.